Alright, I am back with another battle report from the Essence Meta Triangular League. Today I report on the first match in the United States division between RH World Building playing with Saurian Ancient and That Music Writer playing with Makhar. Speaking of Makhar, this is a bit of an unusual patrol, as you see from the missing card. There's no magic, there's no spells. You have a general, the Gula, then you have, which is mounted on a horse. Then you have a unit of 8 horse archers and a unit of 8 Makhar lancers, and then 2 Karkadan in the Karkadan herd. So everybody is very fast. Slowest is 7 inches advance. On the other side, RH World Building will be playing with the Saurian Ancient. They have a Coatl, which is a Master Pyromancer with 3 spells, then a unit of Saurian Warriors, a unit of Skink Braves, which shoots javelins, and a unit of 2 Caimans. Now, we rolled map number 6, which we've already seen in the past, with 2 of each terrain pieces, and that music writer goes first, decides to go to the right side, so that it has the possibility of using the impassable terrain towards the center of the battlefield for covering the flanks, and deploys as follows, with the horse archers next to the border of the battlefield, the general, the Gula, in front of the elevation, then the unit of lancers, and to the north the 2 Karkadan. To which RH World Building replies with the 2 Caimans on the opposite side of the archers, then the Skinks, then the Saurian Warriors, then the Coatl. Then I think he flips stuff around and puts the Saurian Warriors next to the impassable terrain, and then the Skinks next to the Coatl. Now, turn 1, Makhar, no charges, and then in the movement phase they advance, as you see here, with the general behind the impassable terrain and the Karkadan behind the lancers. There's no magic, there's no shooting, and so the turn ends. Turn 1 for the Saurian Ancient. There's also no charges, there's a bit of shuffling forwards in a bit of an arc motion, and then the Coatl goes in a protected space, still having line of sight to cast the Fireball, which is what the Coatl does in the magic phase. 7 dice versus 4. Puts 5 dice on a Fireball versus 4. That music writer tries and dispel that as best he can, wisely, because it creates it causes 2 casualties, and those 2 casualties result in a panic test that Makhar fail on a double 6. So the lancers are fleeing in direction opposite to the Coatl. They go through the Karkadan, but the Karkadan hold. So that's interesting. Rob also casts Flaming Swords on the Skinks in case they might use that for shooting on some other point. That ends turn 1 for the Saurian Ancient. In turn 2 for Makhar, there's no charges, and then first thing to do is to rally the lancers, and then with respect to the other movements, you can see that Karkadan and General and Archers advance. Now, nothing happens in the magic phase, of course. Also, no nothing relevant in the shooting phase either. We go to turn 2 for the Saurian Ancients. There's no charges, and you also see in the movement phase continuing this movement of closing the circle, and with the Skinks going a bit further to the south. In the magic phase, it's 5 dice v4, and RH World Building uses that for another Fireball, this time on the archers, only killing 1, so there's no panic test to speak of here. Half the battle has gone through, only maybe 20-25 minutes so far. It was a fast game. In the charge phase, turn 3, that music writer decides not to charge with anyone. But then in the movement phase, there's a bit of a reshuffling from the archers so that they can have a clearer line of sight and distances. then we see a bit of shuffling forward from the horse lancers in the center and the Karkadan immediately to the north, and then the Gyula reaches in front of the Karkadan to protect them from possible charges right behind the hindrance terrain. Nothing happens in the shooting phase, where that music rather tried to shoot at the Caymans. And so we go into turn 3 for Saurian Ancient. And here, after a bit of measuring around, Rob decides to only charge the Caymans into the Gyula through the forest. The charge automatically goes in, but he passes the dangerous terrain test, so the Caymans don't take any wound to the charging throughout the forest. They make it in contact with the Gyula, and we'll see how that goes in the melee phase. In the meantime, for the rest of the movement, you can see that all the other units advance to support and also to get ready to get into the zone into the final turn, because as you can see here, this is the turn 3, so Rob only has a final turn after this one. Now in the magic phase, it's 5 dice versus 2, which Rob uses to cast a Scorching Salvo. All the units within 18 inches are affected. The spell goes through. The Coatl is well positioned, so he takes all 3 units, puts a number of hits on each of these units, but it only causes 2 wounds to the lancers, which are now depleted to 50% of the original formation, but they pass the panic test this time. Also casts a fireball on the archers, but I think it fails to cast. Now nothing happens in the shooting phase because of ranges, short range for the javelins. In the combat phase, the Gyula attacks the Caymans and fails to do any wound. The Caymans attack back, and it looks like they're meant to fight people like enemies like the Gyula. They put all 3 wounds down, the Gyula just dies on the spot. It's time for panic tests, because the general has been destroyed down there. The Karkadan surprisingly passed that, but the Lancers, they're worn out, they're shocked, and they flee past the impassable terrain. They will be out of the game, and that music rather just deletes the unit and removes that from the battlefield. Also, as a consequence, now Rob can do an overrun movement straight ahead with the Caymans, and that means that the Caymans bring 1 dude in combat with the Karkadan for a combat that is going to be fought in the next turn. Now, in the last turn for Makhar, in the charge phase, that music writer declares a charge with the archers against the Saurians, which is a good move. I'll let you work that through in terms of blocking access and things like that. But he fails the charge on a double 1, and so the archers only shuffle minimally forward, and at this point there's no magic, they cannot shoot. So we go to the combat phase for that turn, and in the melee phase, the Karkadans also fail to wound the Caymans, and the Caymans kill an entire Karkadan back with the attacks from 1 dude. They're on fire, and that sends the Karkadan fleeing, and that means that in the final turn for RH World Building, he can take the remaining units and bring them into the movement phase, into the scoring area, and the final layout with the Coatl getting just right behind the impassable terrain. You can see the cattail emerging from behind the trees. Ends up like this, with 3 units in the scoring zone for the Saurian Ancient, and that's how the battle ends within 1 hour, and 3-0 for the Saurian Ancient. And that's it for this report. See you for the next one.